I'm moving in with my lover from tomorrow. Old hag, get out of my house. I was dumbfounded and looked at the two of them. I knew about Patrick's affair. He had always been prone to cheating. But I never thought he would say he wants a divorce. I look at the face of his affair partner. Young and attractive. Exactly Patrick's type of woman. I suddenly think. Why did Patrick marry me? He likes young beauties. He prefers stylish clothing. Why would he choose a plain, older woman like me as his wife? Money, perhaps. I sighed. And to Patrick, I must be of no use anymore. If that's the case, it can't be helped. Patrick. Though you've capriciously dominated my life until now, I am now freed from that role. In that case, I should also do as I please. My name is Jessica Morris. 35 years old. Modestly speaking, the company I work for is one of the top businesses in the country. And I have reached the position of department head within the company. My husband Patrick works as a model. He once had experiences being called for dramas and movies. We were often featured in local newspapers as the ideal couple that everyone envied. But that's a story of the past. We got married 4 years ago. During that time, Patrick's peak as a model had passed. His acting wasn't well received either, and there were no follow-up offers. All that was left for Patrick were his habits of flashy nightlife and bad relationships. You are the department head? You're joking, right? Directed at me, who shared the news of my promotion, was Patrick's mocking smile. Patrick, being younger, uses honorifics with me. According to him, if he doesn't keep up with honorifics, he would end up using rude language even at work. For Patrick, who prides himself on his gentle personality, it's important. However, the last time Patrick was called to the workplace as a model was almost 2 months ago. You might be good at your job. But it's unbelievable that a woman would be given such a big role. Sorry, but it's true. I said with a sigh. It can't be helped. The previous head had stomach issues and had to quit. Ah. That's why. After explaining this, Patrick seemed to finally understand. He still doesn't think I was chosen for my capabilities. What lies behind that is his own inferiority complex as a model on the decline. Because he isn't doing well, he can't sincerely accept my success. At the time of his debut, Patrick was immensely popular. At 20, he was cast as the lead in a movie. With his refined looks and polite demeanor, his popularity among women was extremely high. In fact, I was one of his fans too. I collected magazines featuring Patrick. And the DVDs of movies he starred in are still treasures to me. We met by chance, and he confessed to me. I was overwhelmed with disbelief. And above all, I was happy. Because I became the lover of the Patrick I admired. Perhaps that was the most fulfilling time for us. You'll have more overtime, right? It's okay. I manage the schedule in advance. So I'll prepare extra food the day before overtime. No matter how busy, I never neglected household chores. That was my pride. And I will continue to do so. I live as both a housewife and a department head. I have no intention of being half-hearted in either role. Any requests for dinner tonight? I'd like beef stew. It's getting cold these days. Saying that, Patrick shrugged his shoulders. It was mid-November. The cold winds were about to begin. Patrick, who dislikes the cold, was dressed heavily despite his tall frame. Even indoors with the heating on, he wore gloves. We don't have any meat. Then you should go buy some. And please pick up some alcohol and potato chips as well. Saying that, Patrick lay down on the sofa. It seems he has no intention of accompanying me shopping. Reluctantly, I prepared alone and got into the car. When I returned home after shopping, Patrick was lying down in the same position as when I left. As I approached, he lazily sat up. "You're late." Sorry, I'm making it now," and as I stood in the kitchen, the doorbell rang. As I looked in surprise, Patrick said with a smile, "You were so late, I went ahead and ordered a pizza." Late. The roads were busy.
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm going to eat pizza, so no need for the stew." That's. I looked down at the shopping bag I was holding. Patrick has always been like this. From a young age. Patrick was used to being pampered by those around him and lacked cooperation. Moreover, I wonder what he was doing while I was away. He had no work scheduled today. That means he was free all day. He does work part-time on some days, but that doesn't last long. Being treated as a has-been model, he gets indignant, claiming he is still active, and ends up arguing with his colleagues. Patrick now spends most of his day playing social games. Missed it again. All my allowance for this month went to gotcha. Please keep your spending in moderation. Yes. While he nods in agreement, Patrick doesn't seem to be repentant at all. I give Patrick an allowance of $200 every month, but often, he runs out and asks for more. Patrick's own income is unstable, and even if he does earn something, he spends it all on himself. Most of it goes to nightlife with his model friends, and then on branded clothes and accessories. Don't be so mad, please. I'm not mad, but... Noticing something from my expression, Patrick moves closer. He stands up from the sofa and tries to embrace me. "I really prefer your cooking, Jessica. The food you work hard to prepare must be delicious." But I got hungry.
Ahahaha.
I slipped out of Patrick's arms. Patrick, left with his arms outstretched, gives a wry smile. "Anyway, let's eat the pizza together. And have a drink." "I still have work to do, so I can't join you for drinks." "That's a shame." Patrick pouts his lips. "It's from this proximity that I noticed." I twitch my nose. "What's this smell?" "Huh?" Patrick looks surprised and his eyes widen. "What do you mean?" "There's a perfume-like smell coming from your clothes, Patrick. It's just your imagination." Patrick tries to smile awkwardly. "Let's eat quickly, shall we?" "Yes, okay." Urged by Patrick, I sit down and we have dinner. All the while, I keep thinking about the source of the smell coming from Patrick's clothes. Even if I ask him directly, he won't answer. Is there something he's hiding? I can't help but suspect so. Even after moving to the study and finishing dinner, my anxiety doesn't subside. I'm frozen in front of the computer. This can't continue. I must not let this affect my work. Above all, I hate leaving things half done. Later, I secretly purchased a listening device, although it pained my conscience. Patrick must prove his innocence through his actions. That's what I thought. At this point, I'm suspecting him of infidelity. After all, Patrick has always had a bad track record with women. He has cheated in the past, and each time, he would cry and beg for forgiveness. Eventually, I reluctantly forgave him then. And just when I thought his bad habits were gone, Patrick. Have you betrayed me again? How many times is this now? I hope this is all in my head. With that prayer, I planted a listening device in Patrick's bag. This revealed Patrick's daily activities. In the morning, he sees me off to work, then goes back to sleep. He wakes up around noon, microwaves the lunch I prepared, and eats. His actions after that were problematic. Damn. Missed again. Patrick was frequenting a casino. I knew he was spending on social games. But I never expected he was gambling elsewhere too. After retrieving the listening device and checking the recordings, I was speechless. His infidelity was confirmed. After leaving the store, Patrick didn't come home but rode his bicycle somewhere. Patrick was humming a tune. He never hums when he's with me. Sounds of ascending stairs. The doorbell rings, and the door opens. A young woman's voice is heard. "Mister, you're late." Sorry. I couldn't bear to listen to the conversation that followed. The two of them exchanged words as if they were very close. And soon, the sound of rustling fabric was heard. I struggled to contain the nausea that surged within me. Patrick. As soon as I muttered his name, tears overflowed from my eyes. Upon reflection, Patrick always uses polite language with me. Isn't that proof that he is considerate towards me? Yet as if to contradict that fact, Patrick was speaking informally to a woman. It seems she is a junior at his office. They were talking about work, and she called him Mr. As I was crying alone in the study, there was a knock at the door. "Jessica? Is something wrong?" "No, it's nothing." I hastily responded and then slowly shook my head. "It's nothing. How could it not be something?" "I'm sorry, Patrick." "Jessica?" A puzzled voice from Patrick. I opened the door and faced him. Patrick looked startled. "Hey, why are you crying?" "I couldn't trust you, so I installed a listening device." "I'm sorry." At my apology, Patrick blinked. "A listening device? No way. I also found out you were cheating. But by using such a dishonest method, I'm the worst." "Forgive me, Patrick." Before I could say that I would forgive him too, Patrick spoke first. "How much did it cost?" "What?" For a moment, I thought he was asking about the price of the listening device. But I was wrong. Patrick said with a laugh. "What a coincidence. Actually, I also hired a detective to check on you. You've been coming home late recently." "I haven't been cheating, though." "I see. Instead, you've been secretly thinking about buying a high-rise condo, haven't you?" That's. I was at a loss for words. It was true. After much consideration of my savings and income, I decided to move to a place with better transport access. The condo Patrick mentioned had caught my eye. It's ideal just being close to the station, not to mention it's new and full of life. The night view must be wonderful too. Although it was slightly over budget, I had decided to buy that condo. That's why I was coming home late, because of the paperwork. "Why didn't you tell me?" That's. It's almost your birthday, right? So, it was meant to be a surprise gift. A gift? For me? Patrick looked surprised. But of course. Patrick is my husband. Since we will live there together, it should also be a gift for Patrick. I'm sorry if I made you anxious. But I swear, I haven't cheated, and I want to move to the new place with you. Thank you, Jessica. Patrick smiled broadly, and I felt relieved. Patrick was pleased. I could apologize for the listening device successfully. Just as I felt we could reconcile, Patrick said something unexpected. "Jessica, can you meet Candace?" "Who?" "Come on, Jessica. You found her, my lover," Patrick said cheerfully. I couldn't comprehend Patrick's nerve and involuntarily stepped back. "Candace is my junior but comes from a wealthy family. She's young and promising, honestly a better match than you, Jessica." "So?" "Wait, don't say it." "That's." "Yes." Patrick nodded with a smile. "Please divorce me, Jessica." A deep despair crawled up from my feet. I used to love Patrick's smile. But now, that smile terrifies me. The tears I had forgotten began to flow again. You're crying again.
Ah.
Excuse me. I'll call her now. Why? Huh? How can you laugh like that? Despite feeling utterly miserable, I couldn't help but ask. It was my fault. But Patrick, that's too much. Not only did you cheat, but now you want me to meet your lover. Otherwise, you won't give up on me, right? Please understand clearly. You and I aren't suited for each other. Someone young and talented like Candace is more appropriate for me. What, that? As I wiped away my tears, I glared at Patrick. Then why did you marry me? Well, it was for financial stability. That's why I've always been careful around you, you know? That's awful. I couldn't stand any longer. I stumbled and collapsed right there. Patrick turned his back on me and started walking. As he headed toward the front door, he was talking on his smartphone.
Ah.
Candace? Come over now. The old hag won't agree to break up with me. Can you come and help persuade her? Patrick. I was shouting. Patrick stopped and turned back to look at me. His eyes were cold. Well, that's that. What is? I'll gladly take the condo. It's a gift for me, right? But I won't be living there with you. The smile quickly faded from Patrick's face. Then, he headed for the front door again. I watched him go, stunned. Soon, I heard a car stop in front of the house. At the front door, Patrick was saying something. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The sound of two people's footsteps and their cheerful voices. Jessica, sorry to keep you waiting. Nice to meet you. The woman greeted. She seemed polite at first glance, but there was a mocking look in her eyes. The two of them looked down at me, still collapsed. With unpleasant smiles on their faces, they spoke in unison. I'm moving in with my lover from tomorrow. Old hag, get out of my house. With those words, I understood. I was no longer needed by Patrick. Silently, I stood up. Well, I need to prepare for the move. Candace, you pack up your stuff too.
Yeah.
Living in a new high-rise condo is like a dream. The two of them left me there and were excitedly chatting. I sighed. Then, I switched my emotions.
Ah.
Jessica. About the divorce papers. What? I'm single. Huh? Their dumbfounded voices and stares followed. We've been divorced for a while now. Remember our promise? If you cheated 3 times, we'd get a divorce. That was supposed to be a joke. I was serious. Saying that, I pulled out the divorce papers from a drawer in the desk. Patrick stared at them, wide-eyed. It seemed he didn't even remember signing them. We wrote each other's names when we made that promise, remember? I thought you threw that away a long time ago. Patrick looked confused. I faced him squarely and continued. I've kept it all this time. This is a copy, the original has already been processed. When did you? Patrick was shocked. I crossed my arms and continued speaking. After your last affair. This time it's the 4th. Yes. We were no longer husband and wife. Still, I had continued to support Patrick. I couldn't separate from him. That's why I didn't tell him I had submitted the divorce papers, and we continued living together. But now, I had reached my limit. I've been managing our finances separately. All your food and allowance were drawn from your own account. Then, my savings are. Patrick's face turned pale. He was aware of how extravagantly he had been living. Candace frowned and took a step away from him. As if to say, this isn't what I signed up for. I'll be living in the condo alone. You two, being strangers, have no right to it. But it was a gift for me. That was if you continued living with me. I dismissed Patrick's pleading tone. That's... Mister, why did you call me here at this time? This isn't what we agreed on. Candace showed her selfish anger. Patrick's face was flustered. Shut up. I didn't expect this to happen either. You boasted that your wife was totally into you. But she had dumped you a long time ago, hadn't she? You are being abandoned just the same. Huh? Candace looked confused. I said with a sigh. Your parents are executives at our company. So, I've spoken to them before. It's wrong to make your parents so sad. What do you know about me? Candace bluffed with all her might. But inside, she probably realized the truth. She was sweating on her forehead. They went to great lengths to make you a model. Now, they regret it. Huh? Why now, Dad? They thought it would benefit them if you succeeded as a model. So they supported you. However, you've just been partying, even getting into trouble with the police. They're tired of covering it up. Her parents were exhausted by their daughter's misconduct. I happened to be the one they consulted. And the answer I gave them was to cut off parental ties. What did you just say? Your father has decided to disown you. And make your serious younger sister the heir to the family. That changes things. Patrick exclaimed. It was the same content that Candace had just shouted. These two, were they just attracted to each other for mutual benefit? They only looked at each other's financial benefits and cared nothing for each other. I don't believe it. It must be the old hag's sour grapes. Really? But what have I lost exactly? I'm the one moving to the condo. None of the money Patrick wasted was from my wallet, so I have no financial loss. Being cheated on by your husband is a loss. Patrick barked pitifully. Looking at his face, he seemed ready to cry. Patrick had approached me relying on my financial resources. But in reality, all the money concerning him had been taken from his savings when he was younger. As a result, his savings balance was nearly depleted. Candace was also frivolous, so the two had barely any savings left together. Moreover, both had lost someone to rely on. I'm selling this house, so you two can live wherever you like. What? Are you throwing us out? You tried to take the condo from me, didn't you? There was no difference in that they both had intended to abandon their former partners with nothing. Don't worry. I'll leave your furniture as it is. It was bought with your money, after all. Don't joke with me. Who's joking? I brushed off Patrick's anger with a flick of my hand. You don't work, just laze around at home all day. Then gambling. Did you really think that was acceptable? My voice was icy. Patrick's voice was filled with panic. I'm not a shut-in, I'm a model. It's just a recharging period. He stuttered to a stop. He probably knew the truth about himself. I am. Right. So during periods when you're not earning, you have to manage with your own money. I spoke as if to teach him a lesson. But Patrick seemed to find something to retort. He fired back. Even so, taking from my savings without permission. I haven't touched your money at all. I said with a laugh. Before I knew it, my tears had stopped. Only my true feelings continued to overflow. All the things I had been holding back were now spilling out. I don't need to rely on your money because my income isn't that low, after all. Ugh. Patrick groaned. Candace held her head and crouched down on the spot. What is this? We're in a tight spot, aren't we? Did we lose? Yes. It was clear now who the winners and losers were. Patrick packed his things and left the house dejectedly. It seems he would be relying on Candace's apartment for the time being. They should use this time to think about their future. As declared, I sold the house and moved to the mentioned condo. It feels empty. There was a reason for the move. The old place was inconvenient in terms of transportation. But more than that, I was planning for the future. If a child were born between Patrick and me, we would need a room for that child. And of course, it would be better to have schools nearby. All these conditions were met by this condo. But all that came to nothing. My marital relationship with Patrick had collapsed, and we were living separately. No children were born. During these 4 years, I never became pregnant. It's too luxurious a space for one person. I could have forgiven you. I muttered. I had a hunch that Patrick was with me for the money. Still, I thought maybe he liked me a little bit. It turned out to be just my vanity, revealed by his words. Since when have I been an old hag? I looked at my face in the mirror. A face with little makeup, focused too much on work. It's a face that has seen its fair share of hardships, showing in fine lines and dark circles under my eyes. My long black hair is tied back in a lackluster ponytail. This tired-looking woman is me. When did I become like this? Before I got married, I used to care more about fashion. Dressed in crisp suits, adorned with my favorite cufflinks. Choosing lipstick from the latest trends. Since when did I become like this? I chewed on my colorless lips that wore no lipstick. I never neglected the household chores. I have been achieving steady results at work. I am an elite. However, as a housewife, I have failed. What went wrong? Then, the ringtone of my smartphone sounded. It was a call from Patrick. Hello? Jessica, please reconsider. That was Patrick's first plea. A desperate, cornered voice. I can't make it work with Candace. She can't cook, and she's stopped getting any work. Maybe you two should get a job then. I said it nonchalantly. I recalled Patrick's face. Patrick, who has never known hardships, always looked younger than his actual age. Free from wrinkles and gray hair, always dressed in branded clothes. But now, that former vigor was no longer apparent in Patrick. Please, Jessica, let's start over. I thought I wasn't suitable for you, an old hag. I shot back. It seems I care more about that comment than I thought. I was wrong. You are a respectable person. If you're talking about social status, sure. Not just that. You always prepare warm meals for me. And the clothes are always freshly washed. You were wonderful as a housewife. Patrick was heaping praise on me. But he only praised the aspects of me that were convenient for him. He never complimented my appearance or personality. I was disgusted with myself. To think I was once infatuated with such a man. Let me ask you something. What is it? Where do you fit in with someone like me? Patrick was speechless at my question. I'm a director at a globally recognized company. I have never slacked off to reach this position. What about you? Have you made any efforts since you stopped getting work? Patrick faltered. It was no surprise. He hadn't really made any effort. I continued. You were cut off from work because you never practiced your acting. And just bossed the staff around, ending up abandoned by everyone. What part of that makes you suitable as my husband? I was desperate to make a comeback. Patrick exclaimed almost as if shouting. It sounded utterly hollow. In reality, Patrick hadn't made any effort or achieved any results. I was suffering, too. Anyone can suffer. So? What actions did you take? Apart from ranking high in some online game, what did you do? I did have a job. Patrick's voice was feeble. He must know it himself. Patrick was just indulging in a life dependent on me. Even that was a life funded by digging into his own savings. Unaware, he continued to squander like water. It's the fault of the people at my part-time job. Patrick seemed to think of this as an excuse. He had retreated into a shell of self-pity and self-preservation. They refused to recognize me, calling me a freeloader and a shut-in. If it was so humiliating, why didn't you strive to clear your name? My voice was tinged with tears. Patrick. Why are you so foolish? Don't disappoint me any further. You could have worked hard, endured the gossip, and finally proven you weren't just a freeloader. Why did you run away? Are you saying you want to hurt me more when I'm already hurt? You are a demon, Patrick spat out. I couldn't help but laugh. So, after old hag, now I'm being called a demon. How much more can he underestimate me? You have influence, you could have boosted my image. Maybe even in the company commercials. I don't mix business with personal matters. I cut him off with my resolute words. We were married. I knew your capabilities better than anyone. That's exactly why I couldn't introduce you to anyone. Introducing you would have not only ruined my credibility but made the company a laughingstock. I'm not that bad. Yes, you were. I assert that he was indeed that bad. Patrick didn't understand acting. He didn't try to adapt to others or polish his acting skills. He skipped voice training to hang out and was consistently self-centered in his tardiness. How could I possibly recommend someone like that? If you had faced your work even for a moment and still failed, I wouldn't blame you. But that wasn't the case with you. You didn't make an effort to improve. Even if I practiced, it wouldn't matter. Patrick muttered quietly. Everyone else has the looks and the talent, I can't compete with that. That's why you disappoint me, by not believing in yourself. I was taken aback by my own words. Yes. I despised Patrick for not recognizing his own worth, for devaluing himself, and for deciding that any effort was futile. Why do you deny your own potential? That's why you fail, because you always run away. You wouldn't understand, you're successful. Patrick ended the call unilaterally. His voice was tinged with self-pitying tears. I just shook my head silently. Patrick. I wasn't at this position from the start either. I never thought for a moment that I had any talent. There are moments when I feel inferior to everyone else, that I'm not as fortunate. That's why I put in the effort. Being less fortunate, I compensated by dedicating more time to my work. That effort is what has earned me my current standing. But Patrick had crushed even the possibility of that. It's no use, I sighed, feeling resigned. I heard a rumor that our subsidiary was considering using Candace as a poster model. That was fine by me. At least in terms of work, Candace was putting in more effort than Patrick. As soon as I came to terms with that, an executive raised a voice. Candace is no good. If we use someone as malicious as her, even products that would sell might fail. And just like that, Candace's appointment was cancelled. Surprisingly, it was her own father who said it. Why would you take away your daughter's job? I couldn't stand it and had to ask. Candace's father replied with a voice laden with deep anguish. Have you ever seen her posts on social media? No. They're terrible. Just insults and complaints about others. She can do the job, but she looks down on everyone around her. That was the biggest problem, her father explained. because she's my daughter, I can't forgive her. To you too. I must have had some shortcomings too, I said with a wry smile. According to Patrick, I'm not just an old hag but also a demon. And I'm plain and unremarkable in appearance. As far as reasons go, that's probably enough for Patrick. I'm sorry about my daughter. No. It's not just an apology, I've been asked by an acquaintance too. There's someone who knows of your reputation and wants you to marry his son. I'm not considering remarriage at the moment. I'm not thinking about it right now, I showed by shaking my head. Candace's father nodded. That's understandable. But think about it calmly. After all, the man in question is a company president's son, he said, crossing his arms. My eyes widened. A marriage proposal from the president's son. This was a bolt from the blue for me. I heard that his son is the same age as Patrick. He's been so focused on work that he's never had a girlfriend. Candace's father continued to plead earnestly. He must regret his daughter's actions that much. I felt sorry in return. It can't be helped. I should at least show my face at the president's office. That should fulfill my obligation to this man. Led by Candace's father, I headed to the president's office. Before the room, Candace's father and I parted. The president is waiting here. Thank you for guiding me. No, thank you for understanding. Candace's father left looking satisfied. I straightened my posture once again. I knocked on the door. A gentle voice responded. Please come in. Yes. The president's office was spacious. At its center stood a tall man with silver hair, which gave him a distinguished appearance. The president shared some information about his son. It seemed he was serious about the marriage proposal. As I hesitated on how to respond, the president said, I don't mean to be rude, but I think you and my son are quite alike. That's not true. I was extremely flattered. The president leaned forward slightly, observing me. Soon, there was a gentle knock on the door. Excuse me. You're late, Tony. The young man named Tony apologized. I apologize. I was discussing the next project with my team, and it got quite heated. Didn't I tell you? That's the kind of man he is. The president seemed slightly exasperated with his son. Then, he clasped his hands together as if praying and said, Tony, Jessica. Would you mind meeting alone just once? If it doesn't work out, you can laugh it off as my bad judgment. Dad, if that's the case, I guess there's no helping it. Would you mind joining me, Jessica? Yes, sure. And so, Tony and I ended up having something like a date. We went to a movie and then had dinner at a restaurant. It turned out to be a very meaningful time. Tony and I found we had similar interests and could engage in productive conversation. We indeed were quite alike. However, Tony and I have not developed a romantic relationship to this day. I gained a good friend and a confidant. It seems Tony felt the same. When I talk with you, Jessica, ideas just keep coming. That's great. That day, we met up at a cafe after work and chatted. I thought to myself, it would be nice if we could continue this relationship. Just then, found you. You are? It was you, wasn't it? The one who sabotaged my job by whispering things to my father. Her voice was low and growling. The glamour she once had was nowhere to be seen. Candace was clearly desperate. It was obvious. And she was pinning all the blame on me. I won't forgive you. Because of you, Because of Jessica, what? Tony stood up protectively, positioning himself between Candace and me. Candace's eyes widened. You are? Do you know me? I can't believe it. Why would Tony, of all people, be with someone like you? Her tone softened slightly when she said it, Tony, suggesting she might have harbored feelings for him. But it seemed Tony didn't know her well. Please leave. I have nothing to discuss with someone who insults my friend. How can you? Rejected by the man she admired, Candace looked visibly hurt. She glared at me even more resentfully. Why does someone like you always attract good men? I don't know. I thought Candace was misunderstanding. Tony is just a friend. While he does like me in that sense, it's a different kind of a like. Tony said indignantly. While you're busy being jealous, she's learning and trying to apply her experiences. She's a person I respect. Please don't speak ill of her. Respect, for such an old hag. You should watch your mouth. That's not how you speak to a lady. His tone was like that of a parent scolding a child. Candace, teary-eyed, backed away. Tony. I don't know you. And I don't want to. Please leave. With those words, Candace broke down and started crying. Sobbing uncontrollably, she ran out of the cafe. Left in the aftermath, Tony and I were momentarily stunned. As we regained our composure, Tony apologized. Tony? I got heated and called you by your first name without permission. I'm not your boyfriend, that was rude of me. Don't worry about it. No. It was unusual stubbornness for Tony. He let his gaze wander as if hesitating. Then, hesitantly, he said, Jessica, would you consider being not just my friend, but my partner? Oh. It was my turn to be taken aback. As I averted my gaze, Tony continued. I knew you were cautious because of your previous marriage. And that's why I thought I'd just be a good friend. Tony. But, I want to be honest with my feelings now. Then Tony took my hand. I was startled. In that moment, I understood. Our friendship had just reached a crossroads. From here, we either part ways or become closer. And we made our choice. I'm much older than you. Being younger doesn't mean I intend to rely on you. I'm a man too, and I'll do my utmost to support you. With those words, I made up my mind. It was truly a case of, after the rain comes fair weather. Thus, Tony and I started dating. After 6 months of dating, Tony and I got engaged. How much is left on the mortgage for the condo? I'll pay it. That's too much. After a discussion, we decided to split the mortgage payments for the condo. We also began living together, and Tony's belongings started to fill the room.
Ah.
This novel. I've read it too. Really? Its writing is succinct yet the plot and character development are bold. What do you think? I feel exactly the same. We laughed together, clutching our stomachs. Why do we get along so well? Someone with whom I can share thoughts and laugh. Tony. What is it? I wish I had met you sooner. I leaned into Tony as I spoke. It was a confession of weakness. Something I had never expressed to anyone before. But with him, I felt I could say it. Because now, I understood what it meant to rely on someone. Then I wouldn't have had to go through so much pain. I'm sorry. Tony hung his head. I smiled wryly. Why are you apologizing? If I had found you sooner. Exactly. Again, we were thinking the same thing. We both wished we had met each other sooner. But in hindsight, perhaps my life with Patrick was a necessary detour. Because my previous husband did nothing, I got better at household chores. Your cooking really is delicious. Laughing, Tony embraced me. I will never let you go. Yes. I blushed but nodded. The smartphone indicated an incoming call. Probably Patrick either begging to get back together or asking for money. Even though I knew, I didn't answer the call. For Tony and me, having each other was enough.